Oh! Whoa! It works! Oh my God! It actually works! Rest in peace. Rest in peace to all those. Look, there's no winners here. There are no winners. And do you think I'm happy to be sitting here after what was a diabolical performance and an embarrassing performance by our football club? And let's face it, we have to live with it as supporters, but fucking hell, these players, the coaches, the club, that was as bad as it gets. So rest in peace to all those brethrens out there who chose Brisbane to win this game and thought that we had a realistic chance of winning that game. And I don't. Look, as much as Saturday night was shocking and embarrassing and insipid and putrid, and that scoreline of that final margin of 28 points, that doesn't seem right. This was an annihilation. And it was classic Carlton, wasn't it? It was classic. It was a putrid start with no energy and no effort and an inability to find a way early in that game. And then there was the sort of fake comeback with it was driven by the same old players that were really driving that comeback. And, the passengers just hopped on board for a little bit of time, and then it was quickly blown away by the opposition. It was a terrible night. But rest in peace to all those brethrens. You don't get the pill, and I'm not kidding. I can actually throw that out now. I've been on that, okay, waiting to do the review of this game because, all those supporters who didn't give us a chance, and obviously you get the pill as well, and you can remain watching My Blue Heaven. I'm kind of glad in retrospect now, guys, and look, how much do you want to speak about this game? I'm not quite sure. What I might do, if you did watch the preview, I might go through those 12 points I spoke about in the preview. Now, obviously, when I did those 12 points in the preview, the teams hadn't been selected yet. But I'm sort of glad in retrospect, if we go back to that really sort of nice period we had this year where we won, 6 in a row, and everything seemed great. We belted Geelong, and it felt at the time it was the passing of the baton. And then we beat Richmond, and I put out that video, and I know I keep referencing this, but I put out that video, we are that team. But I stopped short of saying that we were there. I'm so glad I did that now, because I was never really sucked in, and maybe I was just being ultra cautious and trying to protect myself, but it was more than that. And I said we'd proven absolutely nothing. It was all in front of us, and to fall away like we've done in the second half of the year has been horrendous and so disappointing and almost typical of this football club of ours. And we are essentially quite soft and timid and frightened. But the way it concluded, guys, on Saturday evening with that elimination final loss to Brisbane up there, and they were excellent, but I don't think they're world beaters, but they're a hell of a lot better than what we are. I felt like it was a perfect way for this season to finish for us. It was almost fair and reasonable and just. I mean, I know we won enough games to be in there, but it didn't. Like, I was never getting sort of sucked in or about us making finals this year. It just didn't feel like we belonged, and to finish like that was sort of like I was almost comfortable with it. And hopefully now, I hope we're not delusional. I really don't. But hopefully now we make some really strong, bold, yet smart decisions over the next 3 months. And I know there's already been Jack Russell going and Rob Innes coming in as the new heading up the strength and conditioning department. But, geez, there want to be a hell of a lot more moves made, not just on field, but also off field as well. This club needs to really grow up. And I feel like we are still very much an immature, and we're an old football club and a big football club. Big, huge supporter base. But we are, as I mentioned, we are still very, very immature, frightened and somewhat insecure. And I often use that term wet behind the ears. And the fact that when we beat Geelong in the middle part of that year, when we were on that roll, is just perfect, because look where Geelong are now. You know, they are everything that we aspire to be. Now, that is, regardless of what you think about it, that is a super professional football club, and that's something we aspire to be, and that is something which we just can't get there. Well, I think there will come a time, there has to come a time where we will sit back and go, remember that decision we made? Remember that coach we appointed? Or remember these assistants we brought in? Remember this, person we brought onto the board, or this president, or this CEO, or this group of players that we brought in that changed this football club? There will be some decisions in time, but it's just fucking impossible right now to be positive about what lies ahead unless there's some big moves made, guys, over the next 3 months. And this makes it a little bit tragic, but very intriguing, interesting, and somewhat exciting, because if we sit on our hams and think what we've got is okay, and it's just a matter of resetting and bringing a new fitness guy in, and if we don't make some drastic changes, then I think that's the wrong way to go. These are highly fucking paid individuals running our football club, and there needs to be some accountability and responsibility. It's so hard to pinpoint exactly where things are going on, but I think just everyone must come under scrutiny. Like fucking the coaches, including Michael Voss and his assistants. It definitely feels like Voss needs more help around him strategically. Head of football, Brad Lloyd, CEO, Brian Cook. Have we got him at the right time of his career? I mean, feels like he's going to pack up pretty shortly. Brad Lloyd's been around this football club for a period of time now. You look at our list. Is it well balanced? Is it essentially good enough? You've got to question when you don't fire in a game like this, and all the talk around this finals game. They talked they talked it up, didn't they? They talked it up, and then to come out and perform the way they did in that first half, you have to question our leaders, Patrick Cripps, Jacob Wiedering, Sam Walsh, Charlie Curnow. Are they strong enough? And then you go to the list management. You look at our strategies and the players we are bringing into this football club. Nick Austin has to. I mean, they all have to come under scrutiny. Agresta, Brody, the board, our footy director, Greg Williams. I mean, and then the players. I mean, everyone will take responsibility for this. But I'm not saying heads have to roll, but I think a review would definitely be a good place to start to see what went wrong. And I don't want Michael Voss to be this untouchable figure in this football club. I really don't. It feels like he's got a lot of support, which is okay. Like once your coach loses support, I feel like he's somewhat untouchable. I really do. But if that's the case, he needs some really clever people behind him, because it's just not working. This is a footy team devoid of system. It almost feels like it's just purely based on just contest and then talent. And we were just picked apart on Saturday night. And I'm sort of glad it ended that way so badly, because it has exposed us for what we are. Anyway, wow. What a fucking interesting next 3 months we've got, guys. Looking forward to it. Let's have a look at the game quickly, if I may. And as I said, I did my preview before the teams were released, and I can kind of understand. I can understand the moves that were made and the players that were brought in and the youngsters that were left out. I mean, my only beef with that was those last 2 games of the year. That a lot of that was generated by the enthusiasms of the likes of Jackson Binns and Cooper Lord and Ashton Moyer when they came in, and to take that away in a final, it didn't sit comfortably with me, because there was so much said about those last 2 weeks, how meritorious we were, how honourable it was that we'd found something. Now, for all of them to make way, including Alex Chincotta, was very, very surprising, and that didn't sit well with me. But at the same time, you can understand that the quality, if on, and if at their very best, which they clearly weren't, the blokes that came back in, you're gonna cop it if it doesn't fall your way. And they've pulled the wrong. Look, we were never going to win that game with 3 youngsters in the team, but fuck, in hindsight, wouldn't have been a wonderful experience for those, at least 2 or 3 of those guys, to play in a big final, an elimination final. And I'm 100% sure that they would have, the effort for those three players would have been a hell of a lot better than the effort that we saw for some of these imposters that took the field at the Gabba on Saturday evening. So let's go through the 12 points, okay? And don't get me started on the TDK starting as a sub. Oh, my fucking godfather. And then the cheek of Michael Voss to take Matthew Kennedy off the ground. Now, I'm not a huge Matthew Kennedy fan. I'm not. And in fact, I feel like we've got too many of those types of players. But to drag him from the ground halfway through the second quarter because you fucked up by not starting with TDK on the ground, a bloke that's just going to give you so much energy in the middle of the ground, play as an extra midfielder where we were absolutely creamed out of the middle of the ground, is unforgivable. Is unforgivable. Kemp, so my first point was I wanted Kemp to remain forward, which he did. Did he have a good game? No, I just thought he led up really well, but he didn't play with both Harry and Charlie. So he still got the pretty decent opponent. Only had the real one shot at goal. I don't feel if he's going to remain at the football club, Brody Kemp, this needs to be persevered with. It really does. I still think there's a little bit in and a little bit to go with Brody Kemp as a mobile, tallish forward. But it wasn't a great game. But he did hit the packs hard early, really early in that game. My number 2 point was Lewis Young plays, and he did. And I thought he was okay. In fact, I thought he was one of our better players and one player that probably could walk off the ground, considering he played on, for most of the night, Eric Hipwood, who I thought had no real influence on the game at all, and come off and say, yeah, actually played my role quite well. So the fact that he remains at our football club, he is contracted, and his last 3 games have been okay, is a small positive. My third point was we just had to get a blistering start. We had to, because there was no coming back in this game if we didn't. And then we had to somehow try and maintain it, and we just didn't come. We just didn't come with the right mindset or the right effort, and yeah, they just took us to the sword. It was embarrassing. If Doherty plays, which had already been announced that he was when I did my preview, I didn't want him to be the sub, which he wasn't. I'm uneasy with the Doherty playing. I am uneasy with it. And he wasn't our worst player. If Doc has every aspirations of coming back to our football club next year and still being a big player for this club, I don't understand what was the sort of rush to play him in this game, considering the players that missed out could have played that role. And I'm not saying he didn't look right, but he looked somewhat skinny and frail, and he looked weaker than he usually is, and a bit embarrassing, really. It wasn't awful, but it was, yeah. It's one that, yeah, I don't know. To see Matthew Kennedy, who's sort of been a pretty consistent footballer across the whole of the year, being dragged from the ground halfway through a second quarter, there's a stench about it. There has to be a stench about this. Chukotta didn't play, and I wanted him to be that defensive forward, whether it was on Zorko or whether he got the job on Cameron. I mean, their small forwards killed us. You know, Lohman, Cameron, Rayner, they all hit the scoreboard. They were all dangerous. I got no idea why Alex Cincotta didn't play. I've just got no fucking idea why he didn't play. Wow. I didn't think Dunkley played a great game, so my aspirations of us being really physical against him early in the game to really take away his impact in regards to being the aggressor didn't necessarily pay out, because they dominated early in the game and they didn't really need him to do that. So we can cross that one out. We never had a plan. Well, we might have had a plan to negate Zorko, but it didn't work. And Wilmot, who I mentioned as a really dangerous player, had an outstanding game. And Connor McKenna, he actually started as a sub. But Zorko did what he's like. And he, for me, was a standout player on the ground. His ball use, so smart, clever, high footy IQ. My God. And I mentioned the fact that last year in that final, their halfback flankers were so damaging. And I don't know what was planned for those two in particular, Zorko and Wilmot, but it didn't work. Did Lockie Cowan, who I wanted to go to Kai Lohman. I sort of watched Lockie Cowan's game, guys, and I thought, I think he's going to be a player for us in time. He's second-year player, you know. But they ran rings around us, didn't they, those smalls? Did you feel that the lines just looked physically bigger and more defined? they just looked, even their first year player, Logan Morris, who went to that football club as a fucking rake. Like, he went there, he's from Werribee, he went there as a skinny rake. He now looks like they looked ripped and strong and big. Like, they just look powerful. Kai Loman, he's not a big boy, but they look stronger. Maybe my eyes were deceiving me, but they certainly presented that way. The scores from stoppages, they dominated all that part of the game, and then structurally, when you're getting beaten up through the middle of the ground, which happened in that first half, your defenders don't have much of a chance. But we didn't set up well. We didn't set up well defensively because we didn't work hard enough. And our forwards, when we did have opportunities, just didn't work hard enough either to trap that ball inside forward 50. And we went the conservative approach, didn't we? Long down the line. In fact, I think that should be our new chant at the Carlton Football Club instead of Collingwood. We go long down the line, long down the line, long down the line. Okay, then my number 10 point was we needed big games from Jesse Motlop and Corey Durden and Orazio Fantasia, and they were all fucking putrid. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. They should be ashamed of their performances. And I know Orazio kicked a nice goal, but please give me a spell. The Harris Andrews v Jacob Wiedering comparison, I thought they both played really well. I thought Harris Andrews early pressed up high and we couldn't get past him. He's a fabulous defender. He really is. But I thought Wiedering, as the game progressed, did a reasonable job. With Lewis Young, I thought our two big backs were okay. I didn't think Danaher was okay, but Hipwood wasn't a big influence. Morris was the one that gave us a little bit of trouble. He really did, as that third tall. Did we get what we wanted from Michael Voss's press conference? That was my last point. If it didn't go away, which I expected it wasn't going to go away, was he really going to be honest? Was he going to? I've heard that he gave the boys a bit of a spray after the game and some home truths. That's what I've heard. But he certainly didn't come across like that in the press conference. It was all about not being consistent throughout the year and all that type of stuff. And I would have loved him to have said we had huge aspirations this year. And we blew it. We fucking blew it. The coaches, the players, all of us. The opportunity was there. And we weren't one physically or mentally able to do it. And next year becomes a crucial year for this football club. And I know that we say this every year, but we just cannot have a repeat of this again next year. We cannot have a repeat of this again next year. It is unacceptable. And if it does transpire like this again, where we are talking about consistency, we're talking about effort, we're talking about structures and systems, then obviously something's not getting through to this group. And as head coach, as the person responsible for getting this group to play in a manner which one is consistent, to be a consistent home and away team, and I haven't been able to do that in my time here at the football club. There maybe I'm not the person to be coaching, so next year becomes the year. Anyway, if you were on your deathbed and I owe you one of these, please give me a bell. I'll post one out to you. Rest in peace to all those who picked Brisbane. And I'll be back, guys. I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere. I always said that once we get number 17, that I would finish up, but it feels like I'm going to be around for a little bit longer. Yeah, I'll be doing some draft stuff over the next few months, and obviously the trade period. Oh man, can't wait to hear. I mean, we know the delistings, don't we? We know who's gone. I mean, we know it would be probably Dominic EQ and Sam Durden, and I think Caleb Marchbank and David Cunningham will be released without going through the list now. But yeah, it's the trades. It's the trades. The guys, the surprises that could go out the door, and who we are actually going to bring in. You know, the class, the ball users, and the bit of speed and the bit of power that this group lacks. And I know that they are technical things. I mean, they're technical things, but if we're talking about leadership, if we're talking about, this group not being switched on and not turning up, but then go missing in certain parts of the game, then you also have to question the personalities of this group as well. Like the personalities, are they really driven? And if they're not, like, you then come down to recruiting. Who are they recruiting? Are they really psych testing these individuals before they come to the football club? Because we need some really fucking strong characters to drive this club forward. I am super keen to see who we are targeting over the next month or two. Anyway, guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.